What do you believe? What do you believe and why in this debate?
Well, I think firstly we need a human rights framework which ultimately prioritises the collective security of law-abiding British citizens over the individual rights of foreign nationals. And I think especially when we're talking to foreign nationals who are guilty of committing crimes in the UK, that rule should apply. And I think that at the moment, the way our human rights architecture is constituted, I think that we haven't got the balance quite right there.
Can I clarify, when you say foreign nationals, do you mean not just asylum seekers? Anybody who is a national here but was born elsewhere?
No, I'm talking about non-British citizens,
right, so
non-UK citizens. And I think that when we're looking at this particular case, we're talking about a crime of a decidedly sexual nature. So I think that when it comes to cases such as this, I think British public safety needs to be prioritised. And I know that that is a very controversial view in some quarters, but I think that's the way the law should be applied.
Steve, how would you defend that?
Well, I think the starting point is to understand what human rights are. They're the property of every single one of us because we are human beings. And we don't lose our human rights because we're born somewhere else or because we behave in a certain way.
Do we lose our human rights if we commit a crime, though, particularly one of a serious nature?
No, we never lose our human rights. Of course, we may be subject to punishment for our offences, and the man that you've just referred to will be sentenced in a criminal court and will suffer criminal consequences. The issue of whether he should be expelled somewhere where he may be tortured is a separate matter. Of course, I do not know the answer to that question because, again, I don't know the strength of his claim. If he has no fear of torture or persecution, again, he will be removed from the country.
Going wider than just this case, but also, you know, arguing that there will be victims of these crimes, in this case, a young girl and a woman, who also say they have human rights.
And they do, and that is why we have a criminal...
They don't feel they're being protected when they have communities being housed in the centre of their community, where it isn't clear what those people have done or their nature.
Well,
I'm just putting the argument.
No, I understand, but we all have to pause a little bit before we start casting aspersions on a whole group of people.
But that's the concern.
No, I understand it's the concern, but the fact is that any single one of us in this country, wherever we are born, including British citizens, are capable of committing offences, and many British citizens do, including the offences this man has been charged with.
Okay.
Dr. Rakib, if the person seeking asylum has come from a country where if they were returned, they would be tortured or, you know, murdered in many cases, severely at risk of that, and the sentence that they receive for the crime they've committed is over 12 months, but not actually a crime where that would be appropriate, you're effectively, by deporting them, sentencing them to torture and death.
Well, I think that's a serious moral dilemma that we have here.
And that's the moral dilemma that we're dealing with.
And you're prepared to take that gamble and that risk?
Well, I think for me what's very clear is that when you look at the risks, I think that British public safety has to be prioritised. Now, the UK government ultimately has a responsibility, whether it comes to border security or public safety, to ultimately prioritise the collective safety and security of British citizens.
So